The film begins with some flashes of our lead, Jess, comforting her little son, Tommy, after his nightmares, but she's the one crying instead of him. In another flash, she finds Tommy's sailboat toy in the pool, while Tommy spills some paint inside the house. Jess goes in to clean it and ends up staining her dress. Simultaneously, the house's doorbell rings. When she attends the door, she finds no one. She returns inside and is reminded of her boat trip through a sticky note on the refrigerator. She packs her stuff and loads it in the trunk. Strangely, she forces her son to join her, but he resists and doesn't go. Jess ends up ditching him and driving to the harbor, where her friends Greg, Victor, Sally, and her husband Downey are already there with a new friend, Heather, have started to gather on the harbor. When Jess arrives, Victor asks her about Tommy's whereabouts, so she kies about him being at school. Victor acts rude and walks away. Greg welcomes Jess and begins the trip on a sailboat called Triangle. Jess sleeps momentarily and dreams about waking up on a beach. When she wakes up, Sally asks if she's doing okay. Outside, Greg questions Victor about his behavior, so he tells her Jess is lying about her son being at school because it is Sunday today. Greg doesn't take much notice on this. Not long after, they witness dark clouds forming above them. Indicating of a big storm. Greg tries to contact the Coast Guard but finds the signals wavering that connect her to another channel. A woman sounding much like Sally begs to be helped as someone is killing everyone on her ship. Greg doesn't understand this and hangs up. Unfortunately, the storm doesn't take long to strike the...
Get below deck now! Get the life jackets!
Gets flipped upside down, while all of them float with their jackets on until the storm settles. The next day, they are seen standing on their upturned boat, not caring that Heather has gone missing. Soon, the friends spot a giant ship heading in their direction.
Thank God. Go!
On which they hop and look for help. They decide to explore the inside of the ship, where Jess has a strange feeling of having been on the ship before. Meanwhile, the remaining friends discover a portrait of a Greek god named Aeolus, after whom the ship is named. A brief history passage explains Aeolus was condemned by the gods to push a rock up the mountain and watch it roll back over and over. Sally points out that she knows the actual story, in which he was punished with the rock because he tried to cheat death. Now they move along and come across the ballroom, where all sorts of food is freshly served. There, they hear some noise and go after it, only to find Jess's keys. Failing to comprehend how they got here, they assume Heather has come on board. Jess notices that their wristwatches have stopped, all on different times. Jess sees a reflection and goes after it with Greg. Victor follows them too, leaving Sally and Downey behind. Jess and Greg come across a mirror which has a written command, asking them to head to the theater. Greg starts anticipating and heads towards the theater, whereas Jess questions the ambiguous appearance of the ship and returns to her friends to get off the ship. Meanwhile, Sally and Downey follow a blood trail, leading them to the theater. Jess returns to the ballroom and finds her friends gone. On top of that, she notes all the food gone fully rotten. Victor returns, smeared with blood. He starts choking Jess without any explanation. While she's trying to defend herself, she hears a gunshot and Victor dying on the spot. She panics and runs back to the theater, where she finds Sally and Downey lurking over Greg's corpse. Sally begins hitting Jess for killing Greg, revealing that Greg died confessing Jess shot him, as well as Jess being the one leading them to the theater. In absolute oblivion, she tries to prove her innocence, but a masked entity shoots at them and kills Downey. Jess drags Sally out of there, but unfortunately, she gets shot too. Jess runs away from there immediately. The killer follows her, so she hides in the kitchen first and later sneaks out on the deck. The killer finally opens an attack on her.
Don't shoot! Please! Please don't shoot! Help me!
But she finds a hatchet and uses it to render the killer defenseless. Once she corners the entity, she interrogates her. Instead, she hears herself begging to kill everyone inside to end the loop and then jumps into the sea. Left alone, Jess heads back inside. Soon, she hears the hooting of some people and runs outside to seek help. Much to her terror, she watches her friends and herself waving at the ship from their flipped boat, just as they did a few hours ago. This gives Jess a sense of realization that she's stuck in some sort of a strange time loop, revealing why she kept feeling like she had been on the ship before. She watches her friends and her new version repeating everything that the first Jess did with her friends. The first Jess tries running away but drops her keys, which the new batch of friends find and suspect Heather might be behind it. Soon, the second version of Jess sees a reflection of the first Jess and has Victor chase it without knowing. When the new Victor finds the old Jess, she tries to tell him everything that has happened to her, but the new Victor fails to wrap his head around what she's saying. She ends up pushing him against the wall, due to which he hits his head against a handle and injures himself. The old Jess runs away from there and comes across a room where she finds hundreds of torn papers, all addressing Jess to kill the others. This version of Jess writes the same instruction on a torn paper for the next Jess. Moving forward, she sees matching jackets and rifles. This has her wondering if she just killed her previous version outside, who kept warning her about the loop. There, she also comes across a chamber where her locket gets stuck and falls down. When she leans forward, she witnesses hundreds of her lockets fallen down, confirming she's repeated the entire loop and has been on the ship hundreds of times before. Hoping to break the loop, she picks up a rifle and heads to kill everyone. When she comes across the new batch Victor, she tries shooting him but chickens out and lets him go. She now heads to the ballroom to kill her new version, who's just discovered the rotten food. Just as the loop is repeating itself and the new Jess discovers the bleeding Victor, the old Jess confronts both of them, ending their loop. She points her gun at her new version, who has no clue she's in a loop. The old Jess fails to pull the trigger, due to which the new Jess runs away. She talks to the new Victor and reminds him he got killed in the previous loop, whereas she's prevented that in the new loop. She hears another gunshot, so she runs to the theater where the new Jess has shot Greg. Sally comes attacking Jess, but she's all prepared and saves them from getting killed too. They both appear confused and think Jess has gone crazy, but she tells them her plan to shift the pattern by saving the new batch and getting them out of here instead of killing them. Despite not understanding, they listen to her. She gives them her rifle and emphasizes shooting anybody they see. When she goes to bring Victor back, she finds blood traces that lead her to the deck, indicating the new Jess threw the new Victor off the ship. Back inside, Downey sees someone and opens fire, due to which the old Jess runs back inside. It turns out the new Jess has discovered the loop and is all set on killing Sally and her husband now. She easily convinces Sally and Downey to follow her into a room, while the old Jess returns to find her friends. The new Jess locks them in a room and slashes open Downey's throat. She also stabs Sally in the stomach and continues killing Downey, which allows Sally to escape from there. She crawls towards the control room and unknowingly gets connected with another new batch of Jess and her friends approaching. She tells them about what's happening on the ship, but they do not understand, just like they didn't understand in the film's beginning. The old Jess tries to connect with them too, but the signals get cut. When she goes upstairs to confront Sally, she finds hundreds of her versions killed and stacked. While she tells Sally everything and anticipates the new batch to escape with, she watches the new Jess kill someone and throw them off the ship. Sadly, Sally dies not understanding the loop and allowing the new batch to show up. The old Jess watches the new Jess waiting for the new batch to show up.
Everyone's dead. What's the chances there?
She has a breakdown and ends up smashing things. She can't move on, so she decides to kill the new batch and the second Jess. She secretly watches Jess 2 fooling the third Victor and repeating the cycle. When she leaves, the old Jess comforts Victor and guarantees to save him, after which she goes to dump the previous Downey's body. She uses his blood to write the theater warning on the mirror and dumps his body in the ocean. After which she tells the new Sally and Downey to look for Greg in the theater. She then puts on the same mask her previous version was wearing and goes to shoot Greg. The cycle repeats for the third time, in which she shoots Downey and Sally, while the third Jess gets away. She goes after the third Jess to kill her just the same as shown in the beginning. Unfortunately, the third Jess finds the hatchet and overpowers her. The old Jess gives her the same warning about killing everyone on board and jumps in the sea to complete the loop. This time, she finds herself on the beach just as she dreamed in the beginning. She walks all the way back home, only to find some other version of Jess finding Tommy's sailboat and abusing him for no reason. Tommy sees her outside the window and becomes startled, due to which his paint falls. The random version of Jess abuses him for throwing the paint and starts cleaning it. Jess outside spirals out of control and rings the doorbell before entering the house from the basement. When the Jess inside opens the door and finds no one, she returns inside, only to find the other Jess bludgeoning her to death. Jess comforts Tommy while simultaneously telling him it's only a nightmare. This time, she dumps her previous version's corpse in the car trunk and convinces Tommy to come along with her. On their way, a bird hits their windshield and dies. Jess walks out to throw it on the side and comes across multiple dead birds, confirming she's still in a loop.
We have to go. We have to get out of here.
She tries escaping from there but gets hit by a truck and dies. Jess 2 has also completed the loop and has returned. She sees the third Jess die in a car accident with Tommy. A cab driver consoles her and takes her back to the harbor on her command. There, she continues the loop again, hoping to save her son the next time she walks out of the ship. Here, the movie ends. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe for more awesome recaps.